Okay, so now that we have our accumulated degree days for Lucilia sericata at 30 degrees Celsius, we want to do the same thing for the temperatures that we collected from the scene, or the historical temperature for the location of the scene. So let's do that. And like I said, we start from the day before the body was recovered. So that would be here on August 1st. For the degree days, we do our average temperature minus 10 times our unit of time. In this case, it would be 1 day. And we click and drag. And now we do the accumulated degree days. So for the first day, it's going to be the same. And then we do whatever happened on the previous day plus whatever happened on that day. Click and drag. Okay, so now we have our accumulated degree days from temperatures collected from historical data from the location of the scene, and accumulated degree days from our known temperature for Lucilia sericata. So now what we want to do is find the accumulated degree days that our specimens, our preserved specimens needed to reach that stage. And we found third instar larvae, or we received third instar larvae. But we don't know if those third instars were at the beginning of the third instar stage or at the end. So we need to do a range. And that means we need to cover any time point between these two. So the end of the second instar, the beginning of the third instar, and then the whole third instar. So that means when we're looking at the accumulated degree days from the scene that we have right here, we need to find numbers that are close to these two or between these two. So let's do that. The first day we have 21.94 accumulated degree days. So that's not quite the 29.17. So we go to the next day. And then we have 43.61, which goes over the 29.17. So that means if our maggots were on the younger side, they were bare minimum laid on the 31st. So this would be very young third instars. Now, if they were older third instars, it would need something near the 51.67. So if we go to the next day, we pass the 51.67. So that means our older maggots were bare minimum laid the 30th. So we have here, if our maggots were the earlier or younger third instars, it would be right here. And if they were the older ones, it would be right here. So when we're giving our time of colonization estimate, like I said, we're giving a range. And what we could say is that the body was available for colonization by L. sericata between 7/30, 2024 and 7/31, 2024. Ooh, 2024. So this is basically what you would have to write down in your conclusion for the case report. So hopefully that makes sense. And if you're still confused, please schedule a meeting with me. Like I said, I'm gonna separate dates, I think, until the 24th of November to talk about this. So make sure you understand everything. And if not, just email me and we can do a one-on-one meeting. But now I'll show you the example for the case report. So we're gonna go quickly through this case report. These are the sections that are required by the ABFE. And it might be a little different from the lecture that Dr. Brundage provided for this week's module or module 14. But just make sure that you can do either way, whatever she put in there or what I have right here. But basically you need a title page. You need the contact information, so yours as the forensic entomologist and the agent and agency that contacted you. You need the case information from the incident report. You need the evidence list, so you have to include where you collected the evidence or where it was collected from, how many, the measurements and the mean, the identification of the specimens, and the current location of the insect evidence. You also need a section for the environmental conditions, a section for your data sheets, and you can include screenshots of the Excel spreadsheet. You need to include the analysis you use and your conclusions. So in that conclusion, you have to give the time of colonization estimate. As always, you need your reference list in the ESA format. And then at the end, you need to include this sentence: I reserve the right to make changes to this report as new data are recorded. And this is done in case any new information is collected from the case. You can adjust your calculations based on that new data. So your title page, you have your name, your job title, so you can say forensic entomologist or whatever you like. For address, please don't put your address, put the university's address and then your student email. You have the title, so final case study, and then here, come up with a title of your own. So base it on whatever you're doing for this assignment. The date, your case number. So this is a number you're gonna give your own case, and it can be different from the case number that the agency assigned to the case, which is in the incident case report. So that's the title page. And then we start with the contact. So this is the information of the person that contacted you. So detective name, the address of the agency, that's in the incident case report. The next section is the case information. So a brief summary of what happened. So that's also in the incident case report. The body was discovered on this date, on this location. You as the forensic entomologist received a phone call from this person on this date. And then all the, at the end, you have to include a statement of where all of the insects are stored after you analyze them. So that's for the case information. The insect evidence. So start with this paragraph saying that the evidence was collected from the remains on this body region on this time and date. The evidence was received on this date, and include any other details that you can think of or that you see on the instructions and case report. Next, we have the description of the evidence. So specimens from what body part, that's in the instructions on Canvas. And then how many, so 50. In the example that we went through, the hypothetical case, it was 50 preserved third instar larvae that were identified as Lucilia sericata. And then what reference you used to do those identifications, the larva measured, and then list all of the measurements which are also included in the instructions. And then at the end, you have to include the mean length for the larvae and your confidence interval, which is also in the instructions. The next section is the current location of insect evidence. Basically, all of you should have something like this. So the evidence is currently retained by me at University of Florida. Environmental conditions, so our hourly weather conditions from the weather station that you found, and include the code that's going to be on the email you receive. provided by NOAA, and the weather station is approximately at this distance from the location where their body was recovered. Next section, your data sheets of analysis. So like I said, a screenshot of your calculations should be fine. Just make sure the numbers are legible. If you can't fit the whole thing, just include this part on one screenshot and then this part on another one. So divide this photo in two parts and then copy and paste it here. After that, the analysis you implemented. So we use the accumulated degree days and the maggot length for whatever species you identified. In this case, it was Lucilia sericata. And then any references you use. The next section is the case summary. So this is the summary of your case. The case from the forensic entomologist perspective. So you're going to summarize everything that you did, provide detailed explanation of the stages, what methods you use, what analysis you use, and the range of dates. And then at the end, the most important part would be your time of colonization estimate. So yeah, that's it. At the end, you have your reference list. Make sure they're in ESA format. And then your statement at the bottom, reserving the right to make any changes if needed. So yeah, that's it for the tutorial. I feel like that's gonna be 4 hours long, but I think it's worth it. And if you follow along, you should get a really nice grade for this assignment. But like I said, don't stress about it. Just do your best and make sure you're following the rubric and any of the steps that I suggested here. But yeah, thank you. I will see you later.